The grey walls of the Royal Marsden hospital ward seemed endless. Timothy Johnson, a 7-year-old boy with thin arms and a pale face, sat on the edge of his bed, staring out the window. Clouds drifted past the glass. He counted them. 8, 9, 10. His mother sat beside him. She smiled, but her eyes were red. Timothy noticed. He noticed many things. How the nurses entered too quietly. How his father turned away when the doctor talked about test results. How everyone around him said his name in a special voice, too soft, too careful. Treatment had started 6 weeks ago, chemotherapy. Timothy didn't fully understand the word, but he knew it meant IVs, nausea, and a strange taste in his mouth. He knew that after procedures, all he wanted was sleep. That his hair was falling out, and his mother cried when she thought he wasn't watching. He missed home. His room with dinosaur posters on the walls. School, friends, playing soccer in the yard. Here there was only waiting. Waiting for the next procedure, waiting for results, waiting for the moment when things would get easier. Timothy had stopped smiling. He simply didn't have the strength. Even when Nurse Sarah brought him coloring books, he only nodded. Thank you. But the colors remained untouched. Across the hall was a girl. She was about 5. Sometimes she laughed. Timothy heard it through the corridor. It struck him as strange. How could anyone laugh here? Between IVs and white coats, between fear and pain. His mother stroked his arm. Everything will be okay soon, sweetheart. Timothy didn't answer. He no longer believed the word soon. Time moved differently here. A day felt like a week like a month. On this day, November 27th, 2024, the hospital buzzed with unusual activity. Nurses whispered in the corridor. Someone important was coming. Timothy wasn't listening. He didn't care. But his mother suddenly froze. She was looking at her phone, and her face changed. "Timothy," she said quietly. "The Princess of Wales is coming today." He turned to her. A princess? Kate Middleton. She was treated here herself, and now she wants to meet the children. Something stirred in Timothy's chest, a small spark. He didn't know what it was. Hope? Curiosity? Perhaps just something new in these endless grey days. Meanwhile, Kate Middleton sat in a car on the way to the hospital. She looked out the window but didn't see the streets of London. Thoughts swirled in her head. Today would be difficult. She knew this. Returning to the place where she'd gone through hell herself. Where there were IVs, the smell of antiseptic, where every day was a battle. But she'd made her decision. She had to come. Not for the press, not for protocol, for the children. Kate remembered her own days here. Spring of 2024. The diagnosis that turned everything upside down. Chemotherapy that drained her strength. Moments when it seemed she couldn't make it. And moments when William was there. Her children. Her family. When she understood she had to survive for them. Now, she was in remission. On January 14th, 2025, she'd announced it to the world. But scars remained. Not physical ones. Emotional. The kind you can't see but feel every day. And that's exactly why she was here. Kate knew the children lying in these rooms didn't see her as just a duchess. They saw someone who'd been through the same thing. Who understood. Who wouldn't speak empty words. She took out her phone. A list of names. Timothy Johnson, 7 years old. Lymphoma. 6 weeks of treatment. Doesn't smile. Withdrawn. Kate gripped the phone. 7 years old. Her Louis was almost the same age. She imagined how she'd feel if it were him, and her heart clenched. No. She wouldn't let this child give up. The car stopped at the Royal Marsden entrance. Kate stepped out. Cameras clicked, but she walked forward without looking back. This wasn't for them. She entered through the main entrance. for the first time in many months. Before, she'd come secretly, through the back door, so no one would know. Now she walked openly. It was symbolic. The chief physician met her in the lobby. "Your Royal Highness, we're so pleased." Kate smiled. "I want to see the children, especially those having the hardest time. There's a boy in room 207. Timothy. He's—" "I know," Kate interrupted. "I read about him. Take me to him." She walked down the corridor. Familiar walls, familiar sounds, the beeping of monitors, nurses' footsteps, quiet crying behind closed doors. She remembered all of it. But now she wasn't here as a patient. She was here as someone who could give hope. Kate stopped in front of room 207. She closed her eyes. Deep breath. "You can do this. You must." She knocked. Softly. Gently. The door opened. Timothy's mother froze. Her eyes widened. "Your Royal Highness." "Kate," she said softly. "Just Kate. May I come in?" The woman nodded. Unable to speak, Kate entered and saw him, a small boy in blue pajamas, thin, pale. He sat on the bed and stared at her with huge eyes. Something clenched in Kate's chest. This could be Louis. This could be any child. And it was so unfair. She came closer, crouched beside the bed, to be at his level, so he wouldn't have to look up. "Hello, Timothy. I'm Kate." The boy was silent, just stared. Kate smiled. "They told me you've been here 6 weeks. That's a very long time." He nodded, barely noticeably. "I was here too," she continued. "Last year. I was scared too, and in pain, and it seemed like it would never end." Timothy blinked. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, disbelief. "Really?" he asked quietly. "Really? See here." Kate ran her hand over her wrist. "I had an IV, a port for chemotherapy. I even got used to it. Strange, isn't it?" The boy looked at her arm, then at his own. He had an IV too. "They're giving me chemo too," he said. "I know. It's hard. Very hard. Do you feel sick?" He nodded. "I did too. Every time. But you know what helped me?" Timothy shook his head. "I thought about my children, about hugging them again, about playing in the garden together, about watching them grow up. That gave me strength." Kate saw his face changing, life appearing in his eyes, small, but there. "Do you have something like that?" she asked. "Something you love most of all?" Timothy thought. "Soccer," he finally said. "I played on a team, before I got sick." "You'll play again," Kate said firmly. "I promise you, you'll return to the field, and you'll score a goal, one that everyone will cheer for." She saw him trying to smile. The corners of his mouth trembled, but the smile wouldn't come. Kate reached out and placed her palm on his small hand. "Timothy, I understand you don't believe right now, that it seems like forever, but trust me, I went through this, and I'm here. I recovered, and you will too." He looked at her hand, warm, real. "Do you really believe?" he whispered. "I don't just believe. I know." Timothy's mother stood by the wall. Tears ran down her face. She covered her mouth with her hand to keep from sobbing, to not shatter this moment. Kate turned to her. "You're an incredible mother. I see how you're holding on. But it's hard, isn't it?" The woman nodded, unable to speak. "I understand. When you're sick yourself, it's one thing, but when you watch your child suffer, it's unbearable." "I don't know how to help him," Timothy's mother breathed out. He stopped smiling. "He's so small. He shouldn't have to go through this." Kate stood, walked to her, and hugged her, simply hugged her, without words. The woman broke down crying, quietly, into Kate's shoulder, and Kate held her, because she knew sometimes an embrace matters more than any words. Then she pulled back. looked into the eyes of this exhausted, strong woman. "You'll make it through. You both will. I'll be here, not just today. I'll make sure Timothy has everything he needs. That he gets the best treatment, and that after recovery, he returns to life." "Are you serious?" the mother whispered. "Absolutely." Kate returned to Timothy. "Listen," she said. "I have an idea. When you get better, I'll invite you to the palace. My children and I will play soccer with you, real soccer, on the royal lawn. Deal?" The boy's eyes lit up. Really? A duchess's word. And then a miracle happened. Timothy smiled. For the first time in many weeks. A small, shy smile. But real. Kate felt something warm spreading in her chest. This is why she was here, for this smile. She spent another 20 minutes in the room, talked about her children, how Louis loves climbing trees, how Charlotte adores dancing, how George is serious beyond his years. Timothy listened with bated breath. He asked questions, quiet, tentative, but he was talking. It was incredible. When Kate was leaving, Timothy's mother walked her to the door. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea what you've done." Kate shook her head. "I only did what I needed to. I'll come back. I promise." She stepped into the corridor, and only then allowed herself to exhale. Tears rose in her throat, but she held them back. There were several more rooms ahead, several more children. She had to give each one hope. The following weeks became a test of strength. For Timothy, for his family, for everyone. Treatment didn't get easier. Chemotherapy continued, new cycles, new IVs. Days when nausea wouldn't let go. Nights when pain wouldn't let him sleep. But something had changed. Timothy was no longer alone in his fight. Kate hadn't forgotten him. 3 days after her visit, a package arrived. A large box with the royal crest. Inside was a soccer ball autographed by England's national team. A letter from Kate, and a photograph. In it, she was with her children on a soccer field. "Dear Timothy, soon you'll be here. Keep fighting. Kate." The boy pressed the photograph to his chest, and for the first time in many weeks, he wanted to get out of bed. But Kate didn't stop there. She called the hospital. Every week. Asked about Timothy's condition, how he was tolerating treatment, whether additional help was needed, what else she could do. Doctors were amazed. The Duchess of Wales, one of the busiest women in the country, made time for one little boy. But for Kate, this wasn't duty. This was personal. She remembered her own battle, remembered moments when her hands dropped, when it seemed she couldn't go on. And she remembered what saved her. The love of those close to her. Support. Knowing you're not alone. Timothy needed this support. And she gave it. In mid-December, Kate came again. This time with presents. Christmas was approaching, and she wanted the children in the hospital to feel the holiday. She went to every room, talked with each child, gave gifts, smiled, hugged those who needed it. When she entered Timothy's room, he was already waiting. Sitting on his bed with the soccer ball in his hands. "Hello, champion," Kate said. "Hello," he answered, and smiled. This smile was wider than last time, more confident. "How are you?" "Better. The doctors say the tumor is shrinking." Kate sat beside him, took his hand. "I'm so proud of you." "You're a real fighter. Like you," Timothy said seriously. "You fought too." Kate blinked. Tears rose, but she held them. "Yes. And you know what I learned? The most important thing is not to give up. Even when it hurts. Even when you're scared. Because after darkness always comes light. Were you scared?" "Very. There were days when I didn't want to get up. When I thought, why bother? But then I looked at William, at the children. and I understood I had to, for them. Should I do it for my mum and dad, and for yourself? You deserve to live, Timothy. Play soccer, laugh, be happy. The boy nodded, seriously, like an adult. Kate took another gift from her bag, a small box. This is for you, open it. Timothy opened it. Inside was a bracelet. Simple, with an inscription. You are stronger than you think. This is my bracelet, Kate said quietly. I wore it during treatment. Every time things got hard, I looked at it and remembered I could make it. Now it's yours. Timothy looked at the bracelet. Then at Kate. His lips trembled. Really mine, really. Wear it until you recover, and then, if you want, give it back. But I hope you'll keep it, as a reminder of how strong you are. The boy put on the bracelet. It was too big, hung loose on his thin wrist. But Timothy didn't take it off. He pressed his hand to his chest. Thank you, he whispered. Kate hugged him, carefully. He was so fragile. But in this embrace was all her love, all her faith. When she was leaving, Timothy's mother caught up with her in the corridor. Your Royal Highness, I don't know how to thank you. Kate took her hands. Don't. I'm not doing this for thanks. I'm doing this because I know how important it is to have someone nearby who understands. He's changed. Since your first visit, he started believing again. Faith is everything, Kate said quietly. Without it, you can't survive. December turned to January. Treatment continued. But with each week, Timothy got better. Test results improved. The tumor shrank. Hope grew. Kate followed his progress. She called doctors, read reports, rejoiced at every small victory, and she planned what she'd promised: the meeting at the palace, the soccer match, that moment when Timothy would feel like a normal child again. But they still had to reach that moment, still had to get through the last cycles of chemotherapy, through fear, through pain, and Kate was there, at a distance. But there, she wrote letters, called, supported, because she remembered how important it was to know you're not alone. March 23rd, 2025. Timothy sat in the car and looked out the window. His heart beat so fast it seemed it would leap out of his chest. They were driving to the palace, to Kensington Palace. Treatment had ended 3 weeks ago. The last chemotherapy cycle was behind him. Tests were good. Doctors said you've won. Won. Timothy still couldn't believe it. He was alive. He was healthy. He was free. And today, Kate was keeping her promise. His mother sat beside him. She was still nervous, still afraid. After so many months of fear, it was hard to just let go. But she smiled. A real smile. For the first time in many months. Are you ready? She asked. Timothy nodded. He gripped the soccer ball in his hands, the very one Kate had given him. The palace gates opened. The car drove inside. Timothy pressed against the window. He saw gardens, manicured lawns, trees. Everything was so bright, so alive. The car stopped. The door opened, and there she stood. Kate Middleton, in jeans and a simple white shirt. No tiara, no formality, just a woman, with a warm smile. "Timothy!" she exclaimed. The boy jumped out of the car. He ran to her, and Kate opened her arms. They hugged, tightly, long. Kate felt his small body trembling, how he held onto her with all his might. "You came," she whispered. "You made it. I'm so proud of you." Timothy pulled back. His eyes glistened. "I wore your bracelet every day." Kate looked at his wrist. The bracelet was there, worn, but there. Did it help? Yes. When it hurt, I looked at it and remembered your words, that I'm stronger than I think. Kate bit her lip. Tears burned her eyes, but she didn't cry. Not now. This was a day of joy. "So, champion, ready to play?" Timothy nodded, so vigorously that Kate laughed. They walked through the garden, to a large lawn. They were already waiting there. Prince William with the children, George, Charlotte, Louis, all in sportswear. Timothy froze. He looked at them, at the prince, at the princes and princess, his heroes. "Don't be afraid," Kate said quietly. "They're just children, like you. They want to play with you." William approached first, extended his hand. "Hello, Timothy. I heard you're a great soccer player." The boy shook his hand. He couldn't speak, only nodded. Louis ran up. "You'll be on my team. Come on." And it all began. The game. A real, lively, joyful game. Timothy ran across the grass, for the first time in many months. His legs were weak. His breathing faltered. But he ran. He laughed. He was alive. Kate stood at the edge of the field. She wasn't playing, just watching, and couldn't look away. She saw Timothy receive the ball, run toward the goal, kick, clumsily, weakly, but the ball rolled, and went in. Goal. Everyone shouted. George, Charlotte, Louis, William, Timothy's mother, everyone. And Timothy stood looking at the goal, at the ball in the net, and couldn't believe it. He'd done it. He'd scored a goal. On the royal lawn, Kate couldn't hold back. She rushed to him, swept him up in her arms, spun him around. Both were shaking, both choked with tears. But these were tears of happiness. "You did it!" she shouted. "You did it, Timothy!" The boy hugged her neck, buried his face in her shoulder, and cried, finally. For the first time in all these months, he let himself go. All the fears, all the pain, all the joy, everything poured out in these tears. And Kate held him, rocked him, whispered, "It's okay. Now it's all okay. You're home. You're alive. You won." They stood like that, in the middle of the field, in each other's embrace, two people who'd been through hell and emerged into the light. William approached, put his hand on Kate's shoulder. She looked up. He smiled, but tears glistened in his eyes too. "You're incredible," he said quietly. Kate shook her head. "No, he's incredible." Timothy pulled back, wiped his tears, looked at Kate. "Thank you," he said, "for everything. You saved me." Kate crouched down, took his face in her palms. "No, sweetheart, you saved yourself. I only showed you that you could, and you believed, and fought. This is your victory, only yours." But Timothy shook his head. "Without you, I wouldn't have made it. I'd stopped believing. And you gave me back my faith." Kate pressed him to her. "One more time, the last time that day. Then we did it together." After the game came tea, in the garden, at a long table, sandwiches, cookies, juices. An ordinary family meal, no protocol, no ceremonies. The children chatted. Louis told about his tree-climbing adventures. Charlotte showed Timothy how she could do cartwheels. George asked about soccer. What was his favorite team? Favorite player? Timothy answered. Shyly, but he answered. He felt normal. Just a boy, not a patient, not sick, a boy. Kate sat beside his mother. They spoke quietly, about what would come next, about rehabilitation, about returning to school, about life after illness. "It will be difficult," Kate said. "Finding a new normal. I'm still doing it, but it's possible. And you'll succeed. And you?" Timothy's mother asked. "How are you managing?" Kate thought. "Different ways. There are days when everything's fine. And there are difficult ones. When fear returns, when you think, what if it happens again? But I've learned to live with it, to value every day, every moment, because now I know how fragile it is, how precious. You give hope to so many people. I'm just doing what I should, what I can. If my story helps even one child, it's worth it." They sat in silence, watching the children play, watching Timothy laugh, watching him live. When it was time to leave, Timothy approached Kate. Can I come again sometime?" Kate smiled. This story is based on real events. Kate Middleton did undergo treatment at Royal Marsden Hospital in 2024, announced her remission on January 14, 2025, and visited patients, sharing her experience of battling the illness. She became joint patron of the hospital alongside Prince William. The child's name, Timothy Johnson, has been changed to protect privacy. The story is based on the Duchess's real visits to child patients at Royal Marsden Hospital and other children's hospitals in 2024 through 2025, where she met with young patients undergoing treatment.